Is there an idea more radical in the history of the human race than turning your children over to total strangers whom you know nothing about and having those strangers work on your child's mind out of your sight for 12 years' time? What is more radical than that?
Homeschooling is not the experiment, as Jim so well laid out.
Yep.
Children have been homeschooled, human beings have been homeschooled forever. The government school is really the experiment, and it's painfully obvious, I think, at this point that the experiment is failing miserably.
Yeah. So let's start right away by myth busting. So what homeschool is not. If your children have ever been in a virtual school setting, that is not that is not homeschool. Unless it is a homeschool curriculum, your virtual school where your children are kicked out and locked down at home, that's not homeschool. So if your children struggled with that, I can promise you that's not what they're looking forward to in homeschool. My favorite is the fact that it's not long 8-hour days. And the reason I say that is because a lot of parents these days, myself included, before my children were homeschooled, I relied on that as childcare. That was my childcare so I could go to work full time. And I never even thought to homeschool because how am I going to go to work? I have to support my family. So the fact that it's not long 8-hour days tells you right there that any person, any able-bodied person can homeschool their children. It can be 1 hour a day, it can be 3 hours a day, it can be whatever it is you want. It could be a Sunday morning or a Saturday night. It could be after dinner. It doesn't have to be 9 to 3. In fact, it shouldn't be 9 to 3. Children waste a great amount of time in school every day between their 2 study halls and all these other pointless classes that they'll never use and knowledge they'll never use in the real world. My homeschool is no longer than 3 hours, and I homeschool 3 young children, 11th grade, 9th grade, and kindergarten. And if our day runs longer than 3 hours, that means they're tired, and we should probably stop anyways because they're burnt out.
Right. They're not retaining the
Yep.
info.
Yep. So no matter what, and if you have younger children, their attention span is like that of an ant. So you really shouldn't be sitting with them long anyways. And we like to get outside with our young ones. Our young ones learn so much. There's apps on our phones that we use to identify plants and wildlife and all that stuff. So it's so much fun just to learn alongside your kids, no matter what age they are.
Yes.
And a big one that we like to talk about is you don't need to be a qualified educator. So teachers go through a lot of training, and I commend all the good teachers out there who are fighting the good fight. But we're not qualified educators. I know I'm the least qualified educator out of anyone that I know. But my kids are still getting an education because there's thousands upon thousands of accredited and vetted and really, really great, beautiful homeschool curriculums out there that your children can learn from. And there's a slew of different ways that they can learn.
Yeah.
Good. So this is what homeschool is. Learning outside the public or private school environment, because private schools are also funded, whether you know it or not. Learning alongside your children and sharing knowledge with them, that's our favorite part.
Yes.
I don't know all the things, but I get to learn it with my kids. And then we do a little fist bump or high five, like, oh my gosh, wasn't that math problem horrible, but now we're through it and we get to move on to the next horrible math problem. But we just get through it together, and that's the beauty of it. YouTube is your best friend for that, by the way. This is near and dear to my heart. So being that I've had children in the public school system for a significant amount of time, imparting my own views, morals, and ethics into my learning environment is huge. I have to unteach my children, I had to unteach my children a lot of things that they learned in school, on the bus, in the cafeteria, all the places, while they were in the government school setting. That's hard as a mom, because at home we were rallying one thing and this and the other thing, and my kids would come home and they'd be like, well, that's not what my teacher said, or that's not what Joe said on the bus. I'm like, what is Joe talking about on the bus? That's where my kids' first disbelief in Santa began, which totally broke my heart, was the stupid bus. But other than that, we don't have to, there's not going to be no more separation. You get to have your own views and your own morals, whatever they are, whatever you believe, imparted in your children every single day, 24 hours a day. And that's different than indoctrination. That is core values, that's family.
Right. And you have to understand that's kind of by design, right? So they have your children for 8 hours a day, and you have to think about when they come home, right? It's immediately either you run off to sports, right? You have practice, and then by the time you get home, you have a meal. Maybe it's not a super healthy meal because you're just running. And then you get home, it's late, there's still homework. Homework? Like, what are you doing all day in school? I never understood this. You have my child 8 hours a day, and then they have 2 or 3 hours of homework? Like, what are you doing all day? It was very perplexing to me. And then it's showers, baths, bedtime. So you have, literally, it's not even that you have from 3 till 8 or 9 at night with your kid. It's 15 minutes in the car, driving from practice. I mean, so the amount of time that you truly have with your children to try to undo all that they have been bombarded with all day long is finite.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then the bullying and the peer pressure that happens in schools doesn't happen in homeschool because you are the parent and you're not going to bully your own child.
Nor put them in a situation with other children that are going to be. Or, I've heard experiences of some difficulties with other homeschool children. The beauty of that is that the parent is also right there, right? So you can kind of intervene, you can have a really good, healthy adult child conversation and kind of nip that in the bud right there.
Yep. And then the biggest thing, I think, the biggest myth that goes along with homeschool is, geez, when am I going to socialize my children? You know, my kids love to be around people, or I want them to be socialized. This is such a huge myth. I don't know how many of you work with people your own age all the time. I don't. I don't think I've worked with people my age really ever. It's usually people a lot younger than me or people a lot older than me. So think about that for a second. Our kids are in school, in a building for 8 hours a day, just talking to people their age.
Their exact same age.
What is that teaching them about socialization? Probably not very much.
I always like to say, when my son was 6, some of the things that came out, I don't think another 6-year-old boy is really the best teacher for my 6-year-old boy to be kind of getting information from all day.
Yeah, and they have a well-adapted child. You should probably be socializing them with people that are older than them, people that are younger than them. So anytime you leave your house to go to the store, you're socializing your children. Anytime you have friends over, you're socializing your children. And you can start co-ops and you can start groups to get kids together that are relatively the same age. And that's totally fine and totally legal and totally up to you to do. So don't ever think that you can't socialize or your children will not be socialized. You're not going to break your kids. You're not going to ruin your children by homeschooling them. I can promise you that. Our children are thriving.
Yeah.
Who can homeschool? Anybody in this room can homeschool. If you are a grandparent of children who their parents are thinking about homeschool, you can be the homeschool teacher. You can hire a private tutor 100% of the time for your family. You are the mom and the dad. You can homeschool your children. There's no particular rules around who can homeschool your children. You just can't start a school. To keep it really vague. And then, I mean, why would you homeschool? I can tell you right now, and I'm just going to be really frank with you, we started when the school told us that they were going to give my children breathing breaks. And I looked at them and I said, I don't think so, because you didn't give them the ability to breathe. God did. So you're not going to take that away from them. So immediately I withdrew my children in the beginning of 2020 school year, I think. Yep. Mm-hmm. And we haven't looked back since. No one's going to tell my kids when they can take mask breaks, especially now that they're becoming not a thing anymore. Right. My kids will never, ever go back. You can customize the learning. My son had an IEP when he was in school. He's 16 now. And his IEP was pretty sad and pathetic. He just needed more time. So a lot of times government schools will test your kids and test your kids and test your kids to death. So they can put this on this label on them so they can get extra funds because your kids are now special needs. So they get extra funds for that, in case you didn't know that. And then he's recognized as a child with special needs who has an IEP. And all he needed was someone just to pay attention to him and read him a test. Read it to him out loud. He has more of an auditory plus hands-on learner. And once I figured that out, I was like, you're not
And
special
there's-
needs.
Yeah, not to interject, but there's never a rush to get them out of that example of speech program. I know firsthand. with my
Absolutely.
son. And I sat in on one of the sessions, and I realized, wow, this tutor of these 3 boys, she has no incentive for them to improve. Like I would say, what homework do you want? What do you want Will to work on after hours? And she said, oh, nothing. I take care of it out here. And that's when I knew, oh, she's milking this.
Yeah.
She wants him from first grade all the way till 6th.
Yep.
And that's when I pulled him out. said,
See, and I had the exact opposite experience. So mine in first grade went through reading AIS and graduated out of it and came to me his second grade year to be homeschooled. And I was like, you don't know how to read at all. So what were we doing? That was shocking and an eye opener. And one of my girlfriends who works in the government school system said, well, he wasn't a behavior problem. So it's just push, 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 push.
Yeah.
Push them on through. It's just the assembly line. Yeah. So either way.
Yep. There's a slew of reasons, and you guys, and we'll send
Yeah.
information after the meeting. I know this is kind of small, but it's just a healthier, safer environment. There's a lot of things that happen in schools: drugs, alcohol, violence,
Especially
unhealthy
now.
sexuality happening, racism. That's really where it all starts.
Yeah.
So when you homeschool, you can keep your children in a greenhouse, not in a bubble.
In a greenhouse.
So that they're able to grow and flourish. I don't like keeping my kids in a bubble because I want them to know the things, the life things, but we keep our kids in a greenhouse.
Yes.
So some fun facts, because I grew up thinking that people that were homeschooled were stupid and that they were not smart enough to go to public school. That's just how I thought things, and it's probably a little bit because of my parents and just things I heard. But I truly thought, oh, if you're homeschooled, it's because you're not smart enough to go to public school. Lo and behold, that was myth. Right now, as of March 2021, the numbers are updated every year on this website, the National Home Education Research Institute. I can't imagine what the number is now, I haven't checked. But as of a couple of months ago, 16 states reported up to a 200% increase in homeschool. This is not just happening in New York, this
Right.
is a nationwide thing.
Yes. As I believe I was talking to someone earlier, I'm starting to see the blessing of the current viral
Pathogen,
thing
yeah.
that's happening. Got to be careful on
sickness.
Facebook Live. Yes. I've really seen God just spotlight every system that's crumbling currently. And the education system being one of them. I think it opened a lot of people's eyes as we saw parents going into school board meetings across the country, reading verbatim out of books that they were giving out to high school students that were literally PORNOJ, that were very, very bad. And the school board members were like blushing and, oh my gosh, you can't read that here. Well, why can't I read that here standing at the podium speaking to the school board if you are the ones that said that this was the book that my 9th grader needed to read? So parents started waking up and realizing that this was much more than face diapers, blow darts. This is a much deeper systemic critical race theory. A lot of things are happening. And so I've seen the blessing that this last 18, 24 months has been. And I'm really thankful that parents are really starting to get it across the whole country.
Yeah, for sure. So there are some colleges out there too that will seek out children who are homeschooled because they are very well adapted. They have been able to learn things almost like master concepts because the parents, we, are able to, oh my gosh, you're really interested in marine biology. Well, that might be only a few weeks in science in 10th grade, but let's take a whole 2 months on it because that's something that really interests you. And you have the flexibility and the capability to do that. If your child is really interested in a frog's life cycle, take time with them and really dive into that because that makes them feel empowered.
Yeah.
We want to raise empowered children. We don't want to raise children that just follow the pack. That's why we're in this in this mess that we're in right now. Is because one day we do all have to share society together with this next generation. And I hope to God that we have enough of warrior children out there that are going to help keep being the light and bringing their friends to this side, because this side's better. All right, resources. If you have signed in outside, you will get resources from us. Jen puts together a fantastic email that will link you to the video, the Facebook video, if your friends need to see it, and all the resources you could ever possibly want that we're able to put in an email without getting flagged for too big of a file. So she's really good at that. The first and foremost, your new best friend is the New York State Home Instruction Regulations 100.10. You can write that down.
And you can just Google.
And you can Google search that
DuckDuckGo.
exact.
I don't ever say Google.
Yeah.
You can DuckDuckGo this, New York State.
Home Instruction
yep.
Regulations, yep. And you will land on the page. We'll put it in the email for you, but that's your new best friend.
Yep.
The Homeschool Legal Defense Association. What do they do, Jen?
HSLDA is a legal defense association. They are nationwide. They are wonderful because, so every state has different homeschooling laws. New York State obviously is one of the most regulated.
Is
I know
the most regulated.
everybody's super shocked by that.
Shocker.
It's just, who would have thought? HSLDA will contact your home district on your behalf if they start any sort of pushback or asking for information that they legally don't have the authority to be asking. So again, they're nationwide, so it's not just New York State. So there's been a couple things out in Arizona and California, I know, within the last couple of years that they've worked on where they will actually sue the state. So HSLDA will sue the state or sue the school district when the state or the school district starts overstepping their bounds. So it's $130 a year. I just really enjoy giving people my money that are
and
fighting the good
They're a
fight.
set of attorneys. Attorney legal fees can be very, very steep.
Yep. And they will
so
call
that
your
is very fair.
district on your behalf if your district starts giving you pushback and you just don't want to handle it. You can say, HSLDA, this is my district, this is the issue, and they will have their attorneys handle it.
Yep, and they have a ton of templates too. So if you need,
Yep.
we'll talk about all the things, but sample quarterly reports, letters of intent, written narratives, all the things that you probably would be sending to your school district, they have templates for that. You don't have to recreate the wheel. So if you're a member, you have access to all of that.
Yes, and that's
How
how
much
I,
is that?
130 a year.
Oh, that's not bad.
Not
It's
bad at all.
not, especially with what even if I'm not using it, I like knowing someone in Arizona might need to use it or whatever. But I use all of their templates as
That's
I
what
would,
I'm-
I was a
Yeah.
paralegal in a former life, and so I understand the weight that just the district can see that on the letterhead. I understand that the weight that holds, and I like them knowing that I have some attorneys on my side.
Yep. And then the last one, this is a New York State resource. We haven't dabbled too much with them, but I know there are some groups around the state that organize, it's called LEA, Loving Education at Home. You can feel free to check out their website. Like I said, it's New York State specific. I imagine they have a lot of the same resources that HSLDA does, and just, it's really good for just homeschooling information in general. So you can put that in your back pocket as well. Okay, so, everybody ready? This is it.
This is the fun part.
So this is what it looks like to homeschool in New York State. We're going to dive into each one of these very deeply so that everybody leaves here with a clear understanding of what that looks like. The first thing you will do when you decide to homeschool is you will send a letter of intent to your district superintendent. He'll probably forward it to his secretary or her secretary, but that's who you will send it to.
Yes, and
That
I
is-
always advise everybody to email it to your superintendent, but also to send a hard copy return receipt requested so that you make sure that they received it. But they are supposed to have your hard signature on file. The letter of intent is what removes your child from the district.
They are
Okay?
officially unenrolled.
They are officially unenrolled at that point.
And you can always re-enroll. Just,
Yes.
yes, if you ever, if by God's grace, we ever get to the point where our New York gets its act together and everything is
Curriculum
beautiful
is
and there's a
fantastic.
public school utopia, go ahead, re-enroll them if you feel that's right for your family. This doesn't take them off the map. It just removes them from the school district so that you're able to homeschool them.
And you're saying that you should send that certified so that, or,
Yep, you can send it certified. I sent my very first one certified.
so that way you
Yes,
know that they
certified
received
return
it?
receipt.
Yep.
Yep.
So someone has to
Certified
sign
return
for it.
receipt.
Yep. So then the district may or may not respond within 10 days. Legally, they have 10 days to say, we've received your letter, you're good to go. You're not looking for approval. Please understand that. You're not asking the district's permission. You did not ask the district's permission to birth your children. You're not asking them permission to homeschool your children. That's your declaration.
It's your legal right.
That's it. I'm homeschooling my kids. You don't have to give them any reason. We have a sample letter that we will show you. It is 2 sentences, maybe 3, and that's it. That's your declaration that you have made. This is our move going forward. They have 10 days to respond. I have a feeling over the next year or two, it will take them longer than 10 days because they're going to be bombarded with a lot of letters. So you just do your part and let the school district fail on their part, because they probably will.
Right, so do not wait for a response from
Yep.
the district.
Yep, just keep moving forward with your plan.
That response will be a packet, which will have some forms that you can use. I personally put it directly into my fire pit.
It's trash.
Or my 6-year-old paints on them. That's fun. There is one helpful thing in there, which is a calendar, which my 11-year-old really is like her mother. She's very OCD and type A, so she really enjoys the calendar. But other than that, you don't need to use their forms. You can use whatever forms work best for you. And they will put in there, though, the quarterly report dates. Again, you can
That's
go by
helpful-ish.
those, or you cannot. So those would be the 2 things I would
So
say.
you don't have to, because when I called, they told me that I was not allowed to take her out of school until it was approved.
Oh,
Oh, that's so fun.
so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, bye.
No.
Sorry. She's removed now. She won't be back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Bye. Yep.
Yeah, so from the moment that you start to homeschool, you have 14, or you decide to homeschool?
You can technically start homeschooling and have 14 days legally before you send in that letter of intent.
So she could
But
be
the letter
absent
of
for
it-
14 days. and
Yes,
you would not
but
be
I
penalized
would
for
not
that.
suggest that in today's current climate.
Yeah.
2 years ago, if I had done this meeting, I would say, whatever. I would not do that today. I would make sure that you email it, and I would say in my email, be expecting my hard copy letter, but she will not be returning on Monday.
Yeah, they said that I had to.
What school district was that?
Faulkner. They said that I had to send it to the superintendent and that he had to approve my curriculum.
No.
before-
Oh, no. Oh, wow, no. No,
Before
no.
my child was allowed to be out of school.
That's when you
Negative.
need HSLDA.
Yes. Or no,
Yeah.
or you
just
don't.
knowing.
That's why I'm thinking it's
You
gonna
go
be-
to the regs, which you can print out or we will email you. And I like to be kind. I'm more of a kill 'em with kindness, get farther with honey than sugar. Sometimes. It depends on the battle and it depends on the day. But in this particular situation, I would respond back and say, I'm really sorry. I have the regs right here. Could you please point where in the regs it says that the superintendent, number 1, needs to approve my LOI, and secondly, needs to approve curriculum.
No.
I'm just not finding it. That's what I would personally do, because I'm snarky like that.
Nowhere in New York State law
no.
does it say the government school has to approve that's your school.
It's, you legally have the right to homeschool.
Yeah.
You're not asking permission, you are making a declaration.
Okay.
Yep.
And they do not have any say over your curriculum.
Yeah.
Thank
And you
God.
can change it 100 times in the school year if you
Yes.
want to. We'll get to that.
Yes.
So then you're going to come up with this thing called the Individualized Home Instruction Plan. We will refer to that as the IHIP because it's a lot easier to say. That is due on your part. You send in your letter of intent. It's received on Monday. You have 4 weeks from that day to submit your home education plan. And that is 1 plan per child.
Yes.
So, again, we'll go through what that looks like, but you have 4 weeks. The district confirms compliance or will tell you that revisions are needed. It's very rare if you use the tools that we give you that any district will come back and say, yeah, no, I don't like that. If they don't like it, you need to ask them why and point them to the law that says they
Yeah.
have the ability to tell you what they don't like. Government schools don't belong in homeschool.
Right.
So chances are they'll just approve it, unless, of course, your district pushes back. That's when you ask questions, and we have lots of groups for you to join too.
Okay.
Then you would send, from there on, you're just going to homeschool. You're just going to go about your day and start homeschooling. Every quarter, so every 2 to 3 months, just divide the school year in four equal parts. You're going to send quarterly reports, 1 report per child. That is a progress report to your school district, letting them know that you are on track. This is what the child has done, and they're receiving an S, an A, whatever, a number grade, whatever it is that looks like for your family, a smiley face. I don't care, a gold star, doesn't matter. To let them know that your child is on track, not for their standards, for
your
yours.
standards.
You don't have to teach what the government schools are teaching.
No, thank God.
There are things that they need to know if they're going to go to college, of course, but you can run your homeschool however you see fit. So November, January, April, and June are really how that happens. And then the annual assessments are due every year. At the end of the year, we'll cover that as well.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the website. Don't worry about it. We'll send it to you. Okay.
Okay.
Step 1.
Step 1, letter of intent. Again, this removes your child from the rolls. This is my favorite thing because it's the biggest let's go Brandon we can do to the public school system, because they lose funding. Every time a child is unregistered from the district, they lose funding. That's going to depend on the district, depend on the state, how much that chunk is per child, depend if they are special needs.
How large the school district is.
And also they also lose their COVID relief.
Oh, there's COVID
Yes,
relief.
there's
I don't know if
COVID
you guys knew
relief
that.
per child.
Big chunk of money there.
Yep, $5,000 a kid in our home district. So when you remove, oh yes.
For
Oh,
what?
Nobody knows.
It's a very interesting question. I've
Nobody
asked that
knows.
at school board meetings. They really can't answer it. A new playground, I really don't know.
No, they needed to take out the grant for that.
Oh.
The 70
million?
$70 million
Yeah.
grant for that.
We don't know actually
sure.
what that, because the kids are, sometimes they're kicked out and they have to go virtual, sometimes they're in, sometimes they're masked, so what are they really learning? And the teachers are
Yeah.
crazy, so we're not really sure what COVID relief means, because they're using like less desks, because I know last year, or the first year that this all happened, it was 3 days on, 2 days home. So why there was COVID relief, I don't know, because there was no physical bodies in the school.
It was the plexiglass.
Had to be the
It was for the
plexiglass.
I'm sure it's for the
It was very
plexiglass.
tricky to make that, you
Yeah,
know, to
yeah.
keep everybody
They had to purchase
apart
all of
and-
that. And
Good
the
Lord.
stickers, maybe, there's stickers on the floor probably.
Probably. Let's
I'm
go,
not sure.
Brandon.
Yeah, let's go, Brandon. So, moving right along, this is the best way to make your voice be heard. I think would be the best way to put that. Again, it's a declaration. You're not asking permission. It has to be submitted within 14 days of you starting homeschool. However, I wouldn't wait. I would just submit it. And it's submitted to your superintendent, as we said. Yeah, I would email it and hard copy. So what needs to be on your letter of intent? The first thing that needs to be on is your address. It's obviously going to the superintendent's office. You need all of your children can be listed on this, okay? So you do one letter of intent for your whole family. If you have 2 kids, 5 kids, however many, what grade they're entering, and then the school year.
And if your kids are, if you were to pull your child out, it would be the grade that he or she is currently in.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yep. And, yeah, so this is like a sample. It's literally 2 sentences, okay?
This is
Crazy.
more than what I send.
They made me feel like it wasn't an option, I wasn't allowed
That's
to.
what they do.
Right, because they're losing money.
Yeah.
They're losing
Yeah.
money.
It's unfortunate. And I hate to bash them, because I was there
know.
for so many years, and I was one of those people that just sent her kids to school, and I had a nice break, and I was able to do what I needed to do and work, and I didn't really know what went on all day long. And that scares me now as a mom that homeschools. Like, how would you not want to know that?
Right.
Especially now. That's scary.
Yeah.
But I was, and I just assumed that they were educating my children properly, and then my kids would come home with things, and they would make me watch videos that they were watching, and I'm like, oh my God, you're learning that in that class? This is insane. And this was years ago, before the Rona. So,
Yeah,
it was
Maya
alarming.
came home yesterday and said that they're literally watching, and I get it, it happens, it's our world, but literally watching videos on animals being slaughtered
Oh my God.
and how they
Hard
make food.
pass.
How they make food.
There's more graceful ways to show that.
Oh,
And honestly, it should be something that you and your child do together if
Right.
that's something
If-
that you believe
Right.
in.
Right.
Oh man, we could be here for a really long
yeah.
time.
So this is a really good point to interject that the districts are not homeschooling experts, okay? They're government school experts.
If-
That's
at
their
best.
jam, okay? Then you have homeschooling experts or HSLDA or veteran homeschoolers that have been at this for a heck of a lot longer than her and I. Those are the people you're going to want to lean on for homeschooling questions, issues. The districts have a financial incentive to keep you in the district. And also, if anybody has younger children, you don't have to report for them until they are age 6 by December 1st of that year. Okay?
So kindergarten is technically not mandatory in New York State.
Yes.
All right, step 2. This is the individualized home instruction plan, or the IHIP. This includes your child's name, age, and grade level. Not their date of birth, their age. They already have that information, so they don't need it. Includes a list of, this is our favorite, a list of syllabi, curriculum, textbooks, or very tricky legal wording right
As
there.
a law student, this is my
Or,
favorite.
Jim is appreciating
Yes.
this. Or a plan of instruction, not and.
Not and, it's an
Not
or.
with, it's or.
Yes.
So you can choose what you would like to list, and we're going to give you a sample on your IHIP.
Yes. And again, this is submitted 4 weeks, within 4 weeks. I also would not wait on this.
Yeah.
If you're going to pull your child, you need to start looking at curriculum immediately. You need to have all of this already set at this point in the game. We're in January.
Yeah. And don't worry about them falling behind while you look for curriculum. It's not going
It's
to
not a
happen.
thing.
Kids don't just lose stuff overnight. They'll be fine.
Yes.
Right, so this is what that looks like. Mine is a lot more skeletal than that. I don't like to give a lot of the fluffy stuff. I just give what's required by law, but this is a really good example of for newbies of what you should follow. They got the date, the child's name, age, grade.
Person who will be providing instruction
That's you.
is also listed, or it's a grandparent.
Or grandparent or the tutor.
Or a tutor. You can hire, legally, in New York State, you can hire a tutor 100% of the time. However, this has been an issue this past year, a big issue this past year. Co-ops are wonderful. You guys can start one, you can join one. Legally, the parent or whoever it is you decide is providing instruction has to teach your child 51% of the time. You can do a co-op or whatever else 49% of the time. The reason this gets tricky often is if you have a bunch of children in this room, you have one teacher, but you have children from multiple families. That is perfectly acceptable all day Tuesday, all day Thursday. Okay? You can teach whatever they want. You can do the core 4, you can do electives. You cannot do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
Or Monday through Friday.
or Monday through Friday, all day.
Legally.
Okay? So legally, it has to be the parent or whomever it is you decide is going to be educating your child, grandparent, tutor, parent, 51% of the time. Okay? The rest, 49, whoever wants, whatever you want to do, you're
This
fine.
is only in a co-op though.
This
No,
is the
no.
homeschool
legally,
in general.
this is homeschool in general.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yep, so is that your daughter?
Yes.
You would have to, and I don't know how they even figure out percentages. Just be with your child majority of her week, majority of her education.
Be the one educating
And
her
if you
the
do join
majority
a
of the
group,
time.
make sure that it's not every day, all day.
Oh, okay.
So just if you put together a group and you guys meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's fine.
Perfect.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I get
Yep.
it now.
And if you're there on premise,
I'm there every day.
it counts, right, it
Yeah.
counts as part of your learning with her. So that wouldn't even tap into the 49%. You're with her, you're learning with her, you're helping, you're engaged.
Right.
So that's a benefit of being able to homeschool, is you can actually pick and choose these people as well, which we love.
Yes.
So yeah, that's how that goes. Is there any other questions on this so far right now? Okay.
So the next piece of information that needs to be on the IHIP is your dates that you will be submitting your quarterly reports. Again, you don't need to go by what the district tells you are their dates. If you want to, fine. I mean, they break it out pretty well. I personally had an issue around the Easter break one year where we were going to be just coming home and like I was going to have laundry to do, so I didn't want it to be the very next day that I needed to submit my quarterly. So just watch holidays, your vacations, obviously make sure it's not a weekend. And then the school year, and then this is going to list your plan of instruction. This is going to be, you're going to list everything that you need to be teaching, which is broken out in the regs. We will go over that a little bit also. So this is an example of if you wanted to use the plan of instruction, you could just say history through ancients through medieval times. Okay, that's like a plan of instruction. This is my subject matter versus an online program, which there are some online program. It is not virtual school.
Nope.
Not virtual. So this would be more of like topics that would be studied. This is for science, changes in matter, energy, forces of motion, etc. Or you can list textbooks.
That's what we do.
That's what I do also. Or you can do a mixture, okay? So for history, if you want to do a plan of instruction, perfect. You can then just list textbooks for the rest.
Yep.
Does that make sense? You're
whatever
not
you're
married
comfortable with.
to one of these either.
For example, for our school, we do health. And there's really basic stuff that the school says. You have to talk on fire safety, personal hygiene, all these things. So I don't have a textbook that I teach health from. I'm a board certified holistic practitioner, so I teach what I know, and I include that on my IHIP. I just write topics. Mine are very, unorthodox, so I teach my children the difference between vaccine immunity and herd immunity. We talk about how to take care of yourself and others, how to care for elderly people. We talk about
Plant-based
Plant-based
medicine.
Talk about Dr. Fauci. Yeah.
Well, we did
We do. Yeah,
immunology.
Facebook hates me now, but
Yeah,
that's okay.
that's all right.
Well, we have the book, and we talk about him too, in a very beautiful way, very enlightening way.
Very enlightening.
Yep.
Maybe not beautiful, enlightening.
Enlightening, yeah. So my kids are pretty well versed in the topics of the current situation, but you can do whatever you want. You have to touch on, fire safety. My kids are 16 and 14. If they don't know fire safety by now, they're probably a lost cause. But we just talk about if you're home with your little sister, don't cook things you're not comfortable with, and don't leave things plugged in, and pick up after yourself, that kind of thing. So fire hazards for teens is what I like to call it. But all that stuff you guys can decide on your own. But that's just an example of where you would go topic-based versus textbook-based. If you don't have a textbook for something, that's fine. If you have an expert that's your neighbor that's really good at certain things,
History.
yeah, just
Yeah.
bring them over. Have them
Yep.
come over for an hour
And
sit with your
that's
kids.
totally fine. Like you could have, a neighbor or somebody teach your child like
Yep.
a certain subject. 'Cause
It's not
it
even
wouldn't
teaching
be-
at that point.
Right.
It's just sharing information and helping them become more well-rounded people.
Yeah.
All right, step 3. This is the only time we will tell you to comply. Other
The
than that,
only
do
time.
not comply.
Do not comply with anything.
Yep. Comply with day and hour and subject requirements. This is going to seem super daunting, but I have an easy button for this that we'll talk about. This just kills me. New York State says we have to maintain a record of attendance for our children. Your children live at home with you, they are attending every day. They don't miss days.
Mine are
even
never
if
gone.
they're sick.
They're
They're
never,
there.
Yep, they're always there.
24/7.
24/7.
Present and accounted for.
Every day.
Check the box. Yep.
They're there.
Yep. So perfect attendance gets handed out at the end of every year. Congratulations, you have a certificate.
Yep, here you go.
Yep. Just kidding. We don't do
Signed
that.
by mom.
I'm going to start doing that.
I
though.
think we should.
I
That
think
would be
I think it'd be
super
really
fun.
funny.
That would be funny.
Yep. You must educate your children 180 days throughout the school year. Your children are learning from the time they wake up till the time they go to bed, Monday through Sunday. They never stops.
Including in the summer.
True story.
Yes.
Yep.
Education does not need to fit in a box in a certain building during a certain frame of time.
Yep.
That was one of my biggest mental hurdles, I think. There was a very big shift in the way that I was thinking about educating my children, because we went from you go to a box, prison.
Prison's nicer than school.
They probably are.
Yeah.
You're probably
Let's
right.
just call it the box.
for a certain amount of time with certain people, learning certain things. No, 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 no. School, I love. Some of our greatest explorations are outside with our friends, and I feel like they learn the best hands-on, out there on the outside, not on the inside. That's my personal philosophy. But you can make it however works for your schedule, right? So if you have two parents working, if you have one parent working and there's opposite schedules, all of that can be worked around.
Yeah, because
Okay.
your school day is not 8 hours. So we are two working parents in my family. My husband and I both work. He owns a business. I work part-time and I own a business. So that's 3 jobs right there. But we managed to make it work. We're very, very fortunate, but we also put a lot of hard work in too. So our kids are first and foremost priority, and I know every person sitting in this room feels the same way, otherwise you wouldn't be here.
Right.
So you can definitely make it work. Also, you have a question?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Grades 1 through 6, 900 hours of instruction per year. Again, sounds super scary, not so much. Breaks down to about 3 hours a week per subject. 3 hours a week per subject. That's not that much.
And I promise
Makes
you,
you
you'll
kind
get
of
it.
wonder what they're doing in that school building all day in those 8 hours.
They're lining up along their dots.
On the dots,
On
yeah.
the dots.
Yeah, with no
their-
faces.
With no faces.
All right, we got to keep this Facebook
Sorry.
legal. Yeah.
Sorry, Facebook.
7 through 12, I don't know what they're doing with that extra 90 hours there, but the upper
They're
class
doing
kids need to have
something.
990 hours of instruction. My children are, blessed their heart, they're always learning. From the moment they roll out of that bed and they have that long commute to the couch where they do their school, they are, it's tough, I'm telling you, they're in the sweatpants trap right now. I don't think my daughter's worn jeans in 2 years. But she, they're always learning. They cook for each other. When I go to work, the older ones babysit the younger ones. That's learning, that's education, that's how to care for people.
That's socialization.
It is.
Oh,
With kids
look
that are
at
not
that.
their age.
Look at that. Look at that. Yeah. Shocker.
Yep. So that's, and again, it breaks down to, I don't even know, a little more than 3 hours a week per subject.
Yeah.
So, and that's just a rough, that's, our estimates are rough. That's what you need to do.
Legally.
Legally.
Yep.
That breaks down to
Yes.
how many hours?
Well, those are going to go on quarterlies.
Okay, quarterly, sorry.
Okay, so I just wanted to
Ourselves.
interject really quick, even with like sick days. My kids don't get sick days, and our district had a snow day the other day, and it didn't even snow in the snow belt where we live, which is crazy. My daughter was not pleased,
Neither
but
were mine.
we don't get snow days. We take sun days. Those first couple of real nice days in April, May, we are outside. If math gets done, it does. Maybe on the trampoline, maybe it doesn't. That's kind of how we roll with that. Number 2, sick days. Those are your documentary days. Your older ones are making soup. They are always learning. We just have to flip our mindset out of the prison into real life.
Yeah. My son, who had the IEP, who's brilliant and actually is helping to run the family business at 16 years old, he is not a good reader. Well, by definition for the public school, he's not a good reader. He's a fine reader. He just doesn't like to read. He's stubborn. He just doesn't find anything fun in it, doesn't find it enjoyable. But I can tell you, when you have to sit down and read a manual for how to install things at your customer's house, you get to learn how to love reading real quick. What's helping him is audiobooks. So he will take a book and borrow it from the library via audio. And he has audiobooks playing while he's doing his laundry, while he is shoveling, all the things. So you can drop little things in with your children all day long, and that still counts as learning.
Even there's podcasts, there's CDs that you can play in the car if you have a longer commute. It's kind of, there's a million ways around it.
So many amazing like entrepreneurial podcasts and health podcasts and podcasts for young children that they could dive into, and that can count as part of your school.
You could even do music in the car.
Love it.
I love doing music in the car.
Love it. Okay, so quarterly reports. So the IHIP is submitted at the beginning of the year and then it's done. Quarterly reports are submitted 4 times a year,
Again, one for each child.
one for each child. Yep, you must submit it to the district every quarter. This includes how many hours of instruction you had
Which
for that
is-
quarter.
which is where those numbers
Yep.
are broken, are
We'll break
where
them
they-
down
where
for
they
you.
come in,
Yep.
yes.
Description of the material covered and a grade or evaluation in each subject. I like letter grades. My kids are a little bit intimidated by number grades. I think it makes them feel ill-equipped or less adequate. So it's a mental thing for us. We just do letter grades, and it makes them feel better. Like, oh, I have an A- or I have an A+. You know, they get all like hopped up on that. So that's what I use. I just find that to be very effective and less discriminatory. I'm all about not discriminating. You can't tell. So that's what this looks like. This is one of mine from last year. Super minimal. We covered, even mine right now is even more minimal than this. My quarterly report this year was, for math, it said chapters 1 through 7. That's it. And then I gave a
That's
letter
all
grade.
you put?
Yep.
That's literally all, that's all you're legally required to put.
Yep.
And if they want to know what
I
chapters
love
1 through 7 is, go buy the book, Karen. Go buy the book. If you want to know what I taught, go buy the book and look at it yourself.
Yep.
I'm not required to tell you that we covered fractions and we covered geometry and we covered, you want to know? You go get the book yourself.
Yep.
Don't mess with my school, I'm not going to mess with yours.
Yes.
ELA, now you know who I am. That's me as a person.
Yeah.
I did include this because there was a lot in his ELA curriculum that I wanted the school to know about because there was a lot for 10th grade. But we covered all kinds of things, vocabulary tests. But to see how vague it is, vocabulary tests, they don't need to know what
Spelling
vocabulary you
words.
taught them.
I have spelling.
Insight essays, they don't know what that is. That's not their business. It's literally 1,000-word essays that he wrote every unit. Again, if you want to know, go buy the book. And major rivers of the world, because he had maps he had to trace and label and all that stuff. Just really, really vague stuff.
Yep.
Science, this is from last year. We learned about gene mutations.
Yeah.
That was really relevant.
Yep.
Still is.
DNA,
Genetics,
genetics.
natural selection, thought that was really fun. And DNA. So we learned about all the things last year, so we were really up on all the current events. He was really big on that.
Yeah.
Obviously, he didn't really like it. He got a C, but I just think that just wasn't his jam. This year he's paying more attention. Social studies, world and ancient history. That's as vague as it gets.
Boom.
You don't have to tell them. You could, and if I had a book, which we didn't, I just used different videos and things like that. I would have listed, chapters 1 through whatever, or units 1 through whatever. This is your progress report of the school.
Yep. So legally, what needs to be on here is obviously the year and the quarter, their grade level, name, your address. In the regs, there is a section that says, please let us know if 80% of the work was not completed. So the material that you said in your IHIP that was going to be completed, if you didn't do 80% of that for that quarter, not 80% of it total, apparently you're supposed to tell them.
Well, we always cover 100% of what we say.
Yeah, I always cover everything that I say I'm gonna cover, so I'm not sure
So
why
you just
that's
take
there.
that how you will.
Yep. Subjects. So as you see, the subjects are broken out. We'll get into the subjects that are necessary to be taught. The material covered, the grade. This is where those hours of instruction come in. Every single quarter for grades 1 through 6, it's going to be 225 plus, because your child is always learning, per quarter. Okay? So
That's the 900 divided by 4.
That's the 900 divided by 4.
And it's as easy as
4.
that. You don't have to
Yep.
get into minutes, seconds.
Nope.
Just do that.
I
That's
don't
the
keep
easy button.
track
So you don't
of
have
when
to keep
we're in.
track
Oh,
or-
good golly.
You're gonna have a book and things that you are gonna write down that your kid did. My kids have planners, so I keep
Right.
them accountable, except for my kindergartner, she doesn't count. But the older kids have planners, and they are responsible to write down what they covered. So every day is one lesson in math, and they write that in their planner. So all I have to do is go back and go, okay, we've covered lessons 36 through whatever.
Yep.
And that's it. And it still keeps them, they have to be accountable. Like, I'm not gonna raise these unequipped young people that don't know how to manage their time. I'm pretty stern on that. So they're responsible, and if they don't get it done, then they have 2 things to do the next day. So they know what they need to do to get through the day, and they know how big their curriculum is and how it needs to be broken down. A lot of times curriculums are really good at that.
Yes.
They will break it down for you and say this should be done on day 1, day 2, and it's so amazing because you don't have to do that.
My curriculum literally says, read to child,
Yep,
and then I read.
yep.
And then it says,
Have child do this.
Yeah, activity.
It's so simple. Yeah.
So when we say you don't have to be an educator, it's because the curriculum is the teacher. You are the facilitator. But it is super fun to go down rabbit holes and do like fun stuff with them too. But you purchase a curriculum that you feel will meet the needs of your child and also your kind of I hate to say teaching, but your teaching style too. Like I found that if I didn't want to look at it, I wasn't super pumped to teach it. So I picked a curriculum that I wanted to look at also.
That's my main reason for coming is the curriculum is where I'm stuck. I don't know.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
There's
When you get online, it's
tons.
very
Yes.
overwhelming. There's expensive ones. There's
Free
free
ones.
ones. There's, but I don't, I don't.
So
wanna-
We can talk after.
yeah, we'll talk after because I have some ideas for you too.
Same. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
But, and
So
then.
that's what needs
yep.
to go on the quarterly,
Yep.
legally.
Yep. We were overachievers that quarter. My kids were outside a lot. They did a lot of yard cleaning. This was fourth quarter last year, so there was a lot of dog poop to clean up. And snow to be shoveled and then grass to be mowed. So we put in a couple extra hours for learning. We met up with friends and we did learning groups and all that stuff. So we had 270 hours, but that's a rough estimate.
Yeah, so
I just want to
grades-
get to 990 and be done with it.
Right.
So
Grades 7 through 12 would be 247.5.
plus.
If anybody needs to know that. Should we talk about what needs to be taught?
Is
Grades 1
that
through
on
6?
here? Yeah, let's pause here and talk about what needs to be taught because this is important.
Yes. So, I'm going to actually leave that here.
Okay, perfect.
Grades 1 through 6, and you'll see this in the regs, and I'm not going to touch on everything. You're going to need to print the regs and go by those. But for grades 1 through 6, it's math, reading, spelling, writing, the English language, which I'm not sure, it's like all ELA. It's all one thing. Geography, U.S. history, science, health, music, visual arts, phys ed. And then if English is your second language, then that needs to be taught also.
All the basics, all the core stuff.
Right. So it's pretty basic. Would you like to talk about phys ed?
I love talking about phys
You
ed.
love talking about how phys ed runs in your
Does
family.
anybody have any children here in sports? Yeah, okay.
Lots.
For the children that aren't in sports, she laughs every time.
can't.
If you have a long driveway,
It's like not a thing.
you can tell your children to go get the mail. That's phys ed. If you have a dog, your children can walk their dog. That is phys ed. If there's some sibling rivalry and there's some living room wrestling, that is phys ed.
I agree with that one.
Yep, love that.
Sledding.
Sledding is phys ed.
Sledding.
That's much better than my example.
Agree.
I'm a really big fan of the mailbox running though. I'm a
They
big
should
fan of
race.
it. They have a pool.
They should race, and you could stopwatch it, and it could be like a little bit of math too. You could keep
Yeah.
track of
One of those
who-
horseshoe driveways where they
Yes.
just go back and forth.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Running up and down the stairs several times because that's what you do as a mom. That is phys ed.
For sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to get creative with phys ed. Anything they do outside the school as well, gymnastics, dance, what are the other sports?
any
Football, basketball,
sports.
all the things.
Yep.
That counts as physical
My
education. It
kids
doesn't have to
do-
come from within your home.
Right. Ski, hybrid ninja, horseback riding,
Horseback.
all of that. Same thing with like visual arts. You can do photography. We did calligraphy last year. My 6-year-old still loves like the modeling clay and stuff. So we've moved on from Play-Doh, but now we're modeling clay figurines they're so gorgeous, Taya. They're really rocking it, love. So you just, again, think outside of the box. It doesn't have to look like what public school looks like, all right? Same thing with music. I always put on my listens to various genres of music.
Same.
There was one time when I thought it was really smart for them to listen to 90s rap, and I put
That's when
Biggie.
rap was good.
I
though.
put Biggie on, and there was like, we were like 5 words in, and I was like, that was a poor choice. But that's what 90s rap was all about, guys. We're never gonna listen to that again. Okay, bye. Mama's gonna pump it in the minivan, but not for y'all. So yeah, just think outside the box. Music can be, if they're practicing, my 6-year-old makes homemade instruments out of pots and pans, which is Wonderful.
That's when you get into your podcasting.
Yes.
And you just get into
The
it.
earbuds go in.
Yep.
So think outside the box. Grades 7 and 8, when you read the regs, does anybody have, I'll just go through it. Grades 7 and 8 are cumulative, meaning what they have for what you need to teach in grades 7 and 8, they'll say like 2 units.
2 units.
Of science. That means 1 unit grade 7, 1 unit grade 8. Okay, it's not 2 units each year. Same thing goes with grades 9 through 12. And I'm not going to belabor the point. If you guys have questions about how to break out the units, you can email us, or I'm not going to go into how
Yeah.
to break down a half a unit of art for grade 9. But if you have questions, feel free to reach out on how to do that. Every year, you need to teach patriotism and citizenship, health. It'd be nice
Has that
if
been taught?
that's
I
not
don't
taught
think
in
it's been
government
taught in a
schools.
long time.
But it is taught in homeschools. So, yay,
Amen.
let's go, Brandon. There's that inside voice coming on the outside again. Patriotism and citizenship, health regarding alcohol, drug, and tobacco misuse.
The don't do drugs thing, the peer pressure.
It works really
getting
well
me.
because
Yeah.
we have no drug abuse in this country.
None.
So it's working
Yep.
really well, that war on
Yep.
drugs. Highway and traffic safety, including bike safety, and then fire and arson prevention, which I love the way they word that, arson prevention. I'm not sure that's like a thing, how you prevent arson. There's like an art, I don't know.
What do
Maybe
you
I'm
want to
just
grow up to be, an arsonist? Well, let's work on that.
not smart
Let's
enough.
not have that goal.
Yeah, let's not do that one. And then one time by grade 8, the U.S. Constitution.
So this is funny to me because it's only required by New York State that your children are educated on the Constitution one time. That's super alarming to me, that
Yep.
in 9 years or so of school, that they would only be legally required to talk about that one time.
Yep.
This is where we're at.
This is where we're at. U.S. history, and then we also have the lovely task of teaching New York State history, which is unbelievably boring, and I was a history major, one of my majors, and the New York State Constitution. Again, only once, New York State Constitution, only one time. Feel free to
Teach it every year.
do way more like we plan to do, would be my advice. On your quarterlies and your IHIP, less is more. So again, less is more. You're not trying to like outdo Susie down the street. The school district doesn't care. They
do
don't
not
care
care.
what you're teaching your child. They don't care if you're teaching, Mozart, and they don't care. You're not trying to prove a point. You are just trying to legally satisfy the requirements and nothing more.
Yep. If you're a Pinterest mom, God bless you. I am not. Let's just keep that at home.
Yes.
Doesn't need to be on the quarterly report.
Very important, on the third quarter report, we're going to get into the very last part, which is the final assessments for the year. On your third quarter report, you are going to tell them, you're not asking, you are going to tell them what form of evaluation you're going to be using for that year, which I'll get into this in just a second, whether it's a written narrative or a standardized test, and who is going to be administering that. Now, when you read the regs, it says something like, it gives you the illusion that it needs to be done at a school or by a teacher. That is not the case. When you tell your superintendent, I am going to be administering whatever, written narrative or test, if that superintendent does not push back on that, they are giving, this is my favorite time,
The only time
that I will ever like the words implied consent. So if they do not push back, they are giving you implied consent that you are allowed to give that test. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Correct.
I think we'll just leave it at that. So on your third quarter report, make sure that you say which form of evaluation you're using and who is going to be the evaluator,
Which is you.
which is, yes, the parent. Okay. Annual assessments. These are so fun.
So just to summarize, your quarterly reports are due they're 4 times. I don't even know what it is.
It's like
4 times a year.
2.5.
They're really basic information. Celebrate your children on the side. This is what's required. Don't give them any more than they need. The reason being is because then they're going to expect that from you every time.
Or from
And
veteran
then they're going to start
homeschoolers.
expecting it from other homeschoolers.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now.
We're not doing it.
I'm not doing it. Just not doing it. I have enough to do. I'm not going to up my game on my quarterly reports because Karen felt like she had to celebrate her child. So just do what's legally required and you'll be just fine.
Yes.
Annual assessments. In the name, they're required annually. Yes, they are. Grades 1 through 3, all you have to do is submit a written narrative of your child's progress for the year. So 1, 2, and 3, you just submit a written narrative. A written narrative is very, very, very simple. My written narrative for last year, because all testing was canceled, basically said, wasn't really a good fit for the agenda, I guess. So my written narrative said, my son, Sean, has met and exceeded all the requirements as set forth by New York State Home Instruction Regulations 100.10 for grade 10. He has satisfied them all, whatever I said. He will be moving to grade 11. That was the narrative. That's
Period.
it. Different than the narrative we were presented with by the government, but that was our narrative for homeschool.
Yes.
So we just got through that, and my daughter's was the same way. She went from 8th grade last year to 9th grade this year, so I said she would begin her 9th grade year of homeschool high school next year, and that was the end of it. You don't need to belabor it. You don't need to write that he, achieved all these things and he had perfect attendance and all this other hoopla. You don't need that. You need 2 sentences, 3 max of your child has met and exceeded the requirements, and they will be moving on to the next grade level.
And again, that would be emailed and hard copy.
I email mine.
We are,
We have a
depending on
really
your
decent school district, yeah.
Yeah.
You could do
I
the certified mail thing again if you feel like your school district is a little bit tougher. Ours, thank God, leaves us alone.
It's probably because we go to the board meetings.
Yeah, we're kind of a big presence there,
We're
so
kind
they
of a
know
pain
who
in
we
their
are, and they're
butt.
like, we don't even want to deal with them. So but they're pretty good. They honestly, anytime I submit a quarterly report, it's approved within 5 minutes.
Yeah,
There's
I don't-
no way they read that in
I
5
don't know
minutes.
if they even read them.
Yeah, so they just,
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty easy.
But I would absolutely, I would mail yours
Okay.
for now.
Yep. Grades 4 through 8, a written narrative is required every other year. So on the opposite years, you will, that's supposed, yep, no, you're right. So standardized
Yes.
testing is submitted on the opposite years.
Yes.
Yep.
So the way that the regs state, the reason that this is here is in the regs, it says that you can only do a written narrative every other year for grades 4 through 8. So that means that you have to do the standardized testing those opposite years. I decided it makes more sense to do the written narrative grade 4, standardized testing grade 5, written narrative grade 6, standardized test grade 7, written narrative grade 8, because it's simpler. You can do the written narratives more often that way. If you want to test your child every year, you absolutely can. I would not recommend sending it to the district every year. They don't need to know that information. But if you were just wondering where they were at, there's a myriad of options for the standardized tests. And then grades 9 through 12, you have to test every year, standard test every year.
Yep. Unless your district or the state otherwise instructs you, as they did last year for us, all testing was canceled. We didn't have to do any of it. We just submitted a written narrative for our children. So
Right.
And the standardized testing is found
you can
In-
do CAT tests.
In the regs.
In
Yep.
the regs.
There's a
Yep.
whole list of tests that you can choose from. The Iowa Test of Basic Skills, California Achievement Test, which we've all heard, the SAT, the Stanford Achievement Test. There's also something called a PASS test, P-A-S-S. It's all listed there.
Okay.
So you just pick one. I like the CAT test because I can do it online, and
not
it's not
timed.
timed. You can choose the untimed version, and that would work really well for my son, because if I put a time cap on his test, he would probably turn blue and fall over. He would be so intimidated by that, and he would not do well. So me being able to kind of be there with him, his book's there if he needs to reference something, because I'm not going to keep his books from him. Because when do we ever in
Never.
life have to recall things
Ever.
from memory like
Ever.
that? I mean, we're always looking at resources, especially with our phones being in our hands. It's very, very few and far between that we have to know something like
Instantaneously.
Right, unless it's someone's name, and then it's a lost cause.
Oh, I know.
But, so yeah, it just, for me, that just is what works for our family. You can,
Same.
can buy samples ahead of time or download samples ahead of time if you wanted to see how well your children will do. You can do that in the middle of your school year if you
Mm-hmm.
felt that way. So I, personally, it's a personal preference, but there's, I don't know, almost 10 of them to pick from.
Yeah.
It's a pretty decent list.
And those are going to be submitted with your fourth quarter reports.
Yep. So you would
So
send
you're
your
gonna-
report, and then you would send your,
Your results.
Test results.
Either your test results or your written narrative. So you're going to want to do that test, if it's a testing year, you're going to want to do that test at some point during your fourth quarter. Okay? Because the results need to be submitted on that by June 30th. Okay.
all right. One thing I wanted to point out that we didn't talk about in the beginning, and we usually do, is choosing a curriculum for your child. If that changes 10 times in the year, that's totally fine. Don't ever let anybody tell you, okay, so this happened to us last year. We were doing this, I think it was, math. We were doing a math curriculum, and it was not serving my son at all. So I went and I bought curriculum that I could sit down next to him and do it with him, and he just went right, like amazing, passed with flying colors. So I was able to pivot. I also did the same thing this year with my daughter. We had picked a social curriculum that because we had to teach Global 9, whatever that, nobody even knows in the homeschool world what Global 9 is. I even asked a couple of homeschool moms, and they were like, what is that? And I'm like, I don't know. So our world history is what we're studying. So I picked one that I thought was really great, and then I realized very quickly it was public school based, and my daughter was not going to understand it. And she's pretty smart, and it was just very convoluted. So by middle of first quarter, I just found a new curriculum for her, and she's loving it. And I didn't report that to the school until I turned in my first quarter report.
Right.
So
you
you
can
can
make
pivot
those-
at any time.
So I have a whole long, on my iHip, I can read it real, I will email this to you guys, but,
this
no,
page?
it's on my
Oh,
iHip.
it is, okay.
On my iHip, I always say, child will be using various methods and tools for whichever grade, instruction in all areas, or in all subjects specified in section 100.10 of the regulations of the Commissioner of Education. Due to the individualized nature of homeschooling, materials may be adjusted as necessary to elicit the greatest learning response from child. Therefore, materials utilized may include but are not limited to. So I give myself a little out there, again, law student. But then if I need to pivot, I make that mention on my quarterly. So I'll put a little asterisk at the bottom and say XYZ was not working, was not eliciting a learning response from whichever child. We are
Now using such
now
and
using
such.
such and such and will be going forward.
And they can't tell you not to.
No.
And what you just read, you're gonna be emailing to us?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
She's super wordy. I use like the last sentence of that. Materials are included but are not limited to, may subject to change at any time, and that's what's included. Whatever suits you, whatever legal jargon that you like, that works for your family, you can use, but Jen always puts together a really great sentence you can put on the top of all your iHips. It covers you totally. So community and resources. So this is a resource that we have in Cheektowaga that we love. It's near and dear to our heart. I wish there was one out here that was like
know.
this. But this is a lending library.
But if you guys wanted to take a ride,
Yeah, or a phone call.
for sure a phone call.
I'm thinking for you, I'm thinking a phone call would be super helpful.
Yeah.
Just to get an idea. These women have been homeschooling 30 years. This is a ministry. They run the ministry for the pastor and his wife, and they know homeschool better than anybody that I know. A quick phone call to them, they could probably help you figure out a curriculum over the phone, to be completely honest with you, if you're not from the area. We're blessed, this is in our backyard, we can go there anytime. My son drove there himself earlier in the week because he had to get a book on one of the, I don't know, like Abe Lincoln or something. Oh, Henry Ford, he's studying Henry Ford. So he went and he picked up a book, and it's an actual library, not as big as the public library, but it's a library that's been vetted. So there's no propaganda, there's no indoctrination, and it's Christian-based. So my children are not going to pick up a book about PORN accidentally in the health section.
Right.
Or racism, or whatever other things that are in the shelves of the public library. And my kids don't cover their face and suffocate themselves, so they're not even allowed in a public library. So this place is very face-friendly. We love smile-friendly places. We're big on that. So if you ever have the opportunity to, it's a long drive for you. It's like an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes from here. But like I said, take down their phone number. They're awesome.
They have curriculum right there, though, that you can look through.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they lend it
So,
for the whole
yes.
year. You don't even have to. I pay $25 a
20
year for the membership for the library, and my whole family can use my card. So if
Really?
my daughter wants to go and she wants to, borrow a book, she just uses my card. It's for the family.
So that's where you guys get your curriculum?
A lot of our friends do.
I do
I bought
not.
mine.
You did buy yours.
Yeah, I did. But I spent less than $500 on 3 kids, just so you know. It can be done.
Okay.
But they have so many amazing resources. I mean, you could talk to them about what curriculum to buy, where to get it.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll ship something to you. I don't know.
Okay.
But just having a conversation with them would help you a ton.
Okay.
I agree.
Is that a 4896?
4896, yep.
Okay.
716 area code. They also, this probably wouldn't pertain to you guys, they have a special needs homeschool support group that meets once a month on Mondays. The next one is January 17th. So if you have friends in the area that are, need some maybe special needs support, and this doesn't have to be extreme special needs, it could be whatever you think as a parent your child needs.
Right. Or if you have
Undiagnosed special needs.
a question about IEPs and
Yep.
stuff, that's who you're
Be
going
a
to
really good meeting to go to.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have a virtual option, if they would FaceTime you or Zoom you in. If you're unable to attend, that's something that you could call and ask too as well. But it's just another great resource. I feel like we're so blessed to have that. Those are our children. Those are my kids.
I know, Mike, you didn't put a picture with my kids in
I
there.
know, I wasn't sure how you felt about that, so.
I know,
You're
I'm a
super
little,
private.
I'm a little weird about my
Yeah,
kids'
this is
pictures.
this is my daughter, where's my other daughter? Right there, and that's my son. So we were out one day learning about all the fish that swim in 18 Mile Creek and the rocks and things I didn't even, the sedentary rock and metamorphic rock and the tree. There's probably so many things you guys don't even know that exist in your backyard. And if you're fortunate enough to know our sweet friend Scott right here, I don't know if he'd make the drive to Jamestown, but if we could clone him, that would be great. I think that's frowned upon. But anyways, there needs to be more Mr. Scotts. He's awesome. But that's our co-op, and it's actually bigger now. We've added a few more kids. But that was one of our days out in nature that we decided we were going to put our muck boots on and have at it. It was awesome. This is another one in our area. I don't have any information for you guys for
Nope.
things in your area, but what do we say if it doesn't exist?
Build it.
Done,
Yep.
handled. The School of Two Hearts, not relevant, Christian, okay.
There
This
you
is
go.
where we are. This is where you guys are at. Because I know that there are co-ops that exist out here. Because
Yes.
I've spoken to moms in this area, and they have groups. And there was supposed to be a mom. There's a mom here today that's going to talk a little bit about her story in that too. But they exist. Homeschool has been underground for a long time.
Yes.
So if you don't think that homeschool is popular in New York State, it's because you're not homeschooling yet. Once you are in this world, the support, the love, the resources go on for miles and miles and miles. It's just such a beautiful, welcoming network, and I feel very fortunate and thrilled to be part of it.
Same. Yeah. And yeah, if it doesn't exist, build it. I was blessed to be introduced to Mr. Scott, and this one wanted to start a co-op for her high school students. And I was like, well, who's going to start one for my kids? My kids aren't that
And
old.
I said, you are.
And she said, you are. And I said, no, I'm not. And she said, yes, you are. And then I talked to Scott, and he was like, you're going to start one. And I was like, no, I'm not. And then I started one. So we can also walk you through if you want to start a co-op.
There's information on our website on how to do that as well.
Yes. Yeah, so if you have those questions, Mr. Scott is a ecologist.
Nature
enthusiast, but he has degrees.
He is
in,
certified, yeah, he's legit.
Yes, and has taught college level classes, high school level classes for years. So that's how we kind of found him.
Yeah.
It was
Through the
blessing.
Patriot circles, we were
Blessing,
very
yeah.
lucky.
Jesus, that was a God thing.
Yeah.
But so if you're interested in that kind of nature-based or outdoorsy stuff, talk to either friends, neighbors, see if there's somebody who knows the creeks really well or hunts.
Or who doesn't? Get the app on your phone. Like, when we
True.
don't have Mr. Scott, we have a plant app and a bug app.
Right.
And we are
Right.
like, oh, let's see what this is. And we're scanning it. And we're like, oh, that's this. Oh, these are all the things it does. And the kids are like, wow. Like, I know, we're super smart.
So not.
Yeah, we play it off. But if you don't know, it doesn't exist, you build it.
Yep.
It's not hard to get a bunch of people together that want their best for their kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally every person.
And same thing with sports, right? So if we have a lot of athletes that potentially aren't going to be able to do school sports anymore, number one, think outside of the box. See if there's an alternative that's face-friendly that they could do. Number two, if it doesn't exist, build it.
Yeah,
So
we're working on some football teams and some stuff up in our neck of the woods. So we encourage you guys to do the same because it's not hard. You just have to have a bunch of people together in a room with a lot of good ideas and
Yeah.
go from there.